I'd just gotten back from a trip through Appalachia a little over a month ago. I'm a freelance travel writer, always hunting for stories that feel real. I thought I could find some inspiration in the back roads. They had a charm that drew me in. I wasn't really into the spooky stuff, but I figured I could handle whatever came my way. I stopped at this roadside diner to grab some coffee and pie. The air was warm, full of frying bacon. As I waited for my food, the waitress leaned in close. Her frown made me uneasy. She warned me about an abandoned cabin deep in the woods nearby. She said it wasn't safe and that I should be careful about what I might find there. I chuckled, thinking she was just trying to give me a scare. I wanted a good story after all, so I brushed off her warning. The next morning, I set out with my camera and notebook. Hiking through the woods, I admired the ancient trees. It was quiet. Too quiet, maybe. A chill crawled up my spine. I noticed something in my peripheral vision. I looked left and saw a shadowy figure. I opened my mouth to call out, but no sound came out. I blinked, and it vanished. I figured my mind was playing tricks on me. A day later, I heard laughter echoing through the trees. It wasn't just any laughter. It sounded like children playing, but there were no kids around. Just me and the trees, and a few deer. A knot tightened in my stomach. I should have turned back then, but curiosity pushed me onward. I came across markings carved into an old oak tree. They looked like symbols or words, but I couldn't quite make sense of them. I traced my finger over one carving, and my heart raced. I stepped back, feeling uneasy. Walking deeper into the woods, I felt like I was being watched. Maybe it was just the shadows. Every rustle sent my heart racing. I finally found the old cabin, half hidden by vines. I paused at the door. It looked rotten, and the wind whistled through the broken windows. I pushed it open. The cabin was empty, filled with dust and a smell that made my skin crawl. Then I heard it again, the laughter. It felt closer this time. I turned to run, but I couldn't see anyone. My heart pounded in my chest. I had to get out of there. Just as I stepped outside, the air turned icy. Then I heard a voice, soft but clear, asking, "Why are you here?" I spun around, but I was alone. The forest felt more alive than ever. Now, days later, I can't shake the feeling. I still think about what happened. I'm not sure what I encountered. Was it just in my head? What if I went back to those woods and found nothing but shadows? It still haunts me. How could I ever know the truth? The days dragged on after my trip, but I couldn't let it go. My mind raced with thoughts of the cabin, the laughter, and that chilling voice. I had to know what was happening there. I decided to return. Maybe I was being foolish, but curiosity can be a powerful motivator. As I drove back along the winding roads, I felt a familiar tension in the air. The trees cast strange shadows, twisting in the late afternoon light. I parked my car at the side of the road and took a deep breath. The forest loomed before me, inviting yet forbidding. This time, I brought a small flashlight and a few supplies. Hiking back toward the cabin felt different, each step weighed down by an unseen pressure. I followed the same path I had taken before, but the eerie quiet felt more pronounced. I tried to push the anxious thoughts away. When I reached the old oak tree, I stopped to examine the symbols again. They seemed to shimmer in the fading light, and I leaned in closer. One particular carving caught my eye, a spiral that felt almost alive under my fingertips. Just then, a gust of wind rustled the branches above, and I jumped back. Something about that carving unnerved me. I pressed on, each footfall echoing in the stillness. Taking a moment to gather myself, I retraced my steps toward the cabin. But then I heard a sound, a low murmuring like a chant. It floated through the air, soft and melodic. I froze. Following the sound, I ventured closer to the cabin. I stepped over fallen branches and pushed through dense underbrush. As I neared the door, the murmuring stopped, replaced by an unsettling silence. I hesitated, half expecting the laughter to return. The cabin appeared unchanged, yet something felt different about it. With my heart racing, I opened the door wider. Slowly I stepped inside, holding my flashlight out in front of me. Dust motes danced in its beam, settling as I scanned the surroundings. It felt like the air had thickened around me. Then it happened. From the corner of my eye, I caught a flicker of movement. I turned my head quickly, but nothing was there. I gripped the flashlight tightly, struggling to steady my breath. My instincts screamed for me to leave, but I held my ground. I wanted to confront this fear to make sense of what was happening. That's when I noticed a dark shape peeking out from behind the desk. My stomach twisted. I stepped closer, the wood creaking underfoot. With one swift motion, I reached for whatever was hidden. In that moment, I realized how unprepared I truly was. What if I uncovered something I wasn't meant to find? A chill ran through me as I reached down and pulled back the dusty cloth. What I found sent a pulse of terror through my veins. The fabric slid aside, revealing a small weathered journal. It was bound in cracked leather, the edges frayed. My hands shook as I lifted it, dust cascading down. I flipped it open, revealing pages filled with frantic scribbles and odd sketches. Lines spiraled and twisted, much like the symbols I had seen outside. Panic gnawed at my insides. I skimmed through the entries. They were dated, the last one being just a few days ago. The handwriting was erratic, almost manic. Words jumped out at me. They're watching, the woods whisper, and the circle must be completed. I felt like I was intruding on something deeply unsettling. Suddenly I heard a noise outside, a rustling, breaking the silence. I froze, gripping the journal tighter. My mind raced. Was someone else here? Had I interrupted something? I glanced around, my heart pounding. I wanted to call out, but fear silenced me. The rustling grew louder, closer. Then I noticed a shadow darting past the window. My breath hitched. I paced around the cabin trying to stay quiet, but the floor creaked under my weight. I approached the window, peering out. The fading light was swallowing everything, casting long shadows through the trees. My hand trembled as I switched off the flashlight, hoping to blend into the darkness. I pressed my face against the cold glass, straining to see more. The woods felt alive, branches swaying with an unseen force. That's when I caught a glimpse of something, figures clustered near the tree line, half hidden in the shadows. My stomach dropped. Were they the ones from the journal? It was hard to make out details, but I could see movement, arms lifted as if in a silent chant. No laughter this time, just a haunting stillness filled the air. My instinct screamed for me to get out while I could, but something anchored me to the spot. A part of me needed to understand what was happening. I took a step back from the window, heart racing. I glanced back at the journal and the unsettling circle drawn on the page. The imagery from the woods and the whispers replayed in my mind. I needed answers. But before I could decide my next move, a loud bang echoed from the front door, shaking the cabin. My pulse quickened. Someone was trying to come in. I rushed to find a place to hide, clutching the journal like a lifeline. In the cramped space, every creak and groan felt amplified. The door shuddered under the force of the pounding. Then everything went dark. The power must have gone out. I was alone in pitch darkness, trembling as I heard footsteps, slow, deliberate and heavy, approaching the cabin. What had I gotten myself into? The footsteps stopped right outside the door. My heart slammed in my chest. I held my breath, straining to hear any sound, any sign of what was about to happen. The silence felt thick and palpable, heavy enough to choke me. I couldn't tell if it was my imagination or if someone was actually there. Then came a soft, almost reverent whisper. I couldn't make out the words, but the tone sent a shiver down my spine. It felt like a call, a beckoning. I squeezed my eyes shut, hoping I'd somehow wake from this nightmare. But no matter how hard I tried, the darkness remained. I heard another bang against the door, more insistent this time. Panic clawed at my throat. I had to move. I couldn't stay hidden here. I edged away from my hiding spot and decided to make my way to the back of the cabin. I tried to remember the layout from when I first entered, but my mind was clouded with fear. As I stumbled through the darkness, I felt the cool wood of the wall beneath my fingertips. I moved slowly, careful not to make a sound. I could hear the whispers again, this time accompanied by the sound of rustling leaves outside. It felt as if the night was alive with them. Suddenly, the door creaked open, flooding the room with faint moonlight. I caught a glimpse of a figure silhouetted in the doorway. All I could make out were the outlines of a hooded figure. My breath caught again. They stood there, motionless, as if waiting for me to react. I pressed myself against the wall, trying to make myself as small as possible. My eyes flicked towards the window. Outside, the figures I had seen earlier were now closer, circled around the cabin, their bodies swaying like trees in a wind I couldn't feel. What were they doing? The figure at the door stepped inside. I went cold. This was it. I pictured myself rushing out the back door and sprinting into the woods, but my legs felt heavy, rooted to the spot. "Where are you?" A voice called, low and almost melodic. It sent chills up my spine. "You have something we need." What was it they thought I had? My mind raced through the last few hours, trying to recall anything that might be significant. The journal? Was that what they wanted? The mere thought sent panic surging through me, paralyzing my every intention. Another loud crash came from outside, followed by frantic whispers. The figures were getting restless. I couldn't stay hidden for long. I glanced back at the dark shape in the doorway. More footsteps shuffled behind them, likely more figures stepping inside. That's when I saw it. A glimmer near the floor, something shining in the moonlight. The journal. It slipped from my grasp as I moved, landing with an unsettling thud. "Get it," the figure commanded. A chill ran through me. I was trapped. The whispers grew louder, filling the air with a sense of foreboding. I knew I had to make a choice, but the urge to run was drowned by the necessity of understanding. The circle they had mentioned, it all tied together somehow. I needed to know what their intentions were, even if it meant risking everything. As the first figure stepped closer, I opened my mouth to speak, but nothing came out. The shadows cloaked me, and their whispers seemed to echo all around. I had to find the truth before it consumed me. The figure moved closer, casting a shadow that stretched across the room. I could barely make out the details of its hood, but the tension radiating from it was unmistakable. The whispers surged, almost drowning out my thoughts. My body was frozen, caught in the clash between fight or flight. "Why do you need it?" I finally mustered the courage to ask. My voice trembled, barely above a whisper, but it felt essential to break the silence. The figure paused, tilting its head slightly, almost curious. "You'll understand soon enough," it replied, the tone echoing a hidden promise. Another hooded figure stepped in behind the first, their movements fluid and synchronized, like dancers weaving in a forgotten ritual. I glanced at the journal, still glowing faintly on the floor. My heart raced. What secrets did it hold that made these figures so determined to retrieve it? I needed a plan. I needed an escape route. As if sensing my thoughts, the first figure raised a hand. "You cannot leave. Not yet." The voices outside rose to a crescendo. I could hear branches snapping and footsteps pounding the ground, an impatient thrumming that felt like the heartbeat of the forest itself. It was as if the woods were in league with these figures, trapping me here. "Tell us where it is," another voice chimed in, a higher call from the back, almost melodic like a song. Frantically, I shook my head, my stomach twisting. What did they want? I scanned the space for anything I could use as a weapon, but the room felt increasingly suffocating. the shadows thickening as more figures filled the doorway and pushed into the cabin. Then a flash of understanding hit me. The figures weren't just here for the journal. They were searching for something deeper, something linked to the very soil beneath our feet. That's when I remembered. Something I'd overheard in town just before this trip. Whispers about a circle of people, lost and restless, seeking something they believed could change their fate. "What are you? Some kind of cult?" I blurted out before I could stop myself, feeling a sudden surge of adrenaline. The air turned cold. Their eyes, if they had any, were suddenly fixed on me, the melody of their whispers transforming into a low hum, vibrating through the wooden walls. "We are the keepers of the circle," one replied, stepping forward. "You have been chosen." The ground beneath me seemed to shift. My mind raced. Chosen for what? I took a step back, thinking of the back door, but another figure blocked my escape. There was no way to escape. I was surrounded. "Help me understand," I pleaded. "What is it I'm supposed to do?" As if in response, a gust of wind howled outside, rattling the windows. Panic took hold again as the figures converged, their interest shifting from the journal to me. My instincts screamed for flight, but I felt rooted. And then, right at that moment, something extraordinary happened. The journal began to pulse. Light flashed from its pages, illuminating the dark cabin, causing the figures to recoil. I realized, in that electric moment, I was more than just a bystander. I was part of this, whatever this was, and it was far from over. The light from the journal blazed, filling the room with a warm, golden glow. For a heartbeat, the atmosphere shifted. The figures halted, their whispers turning into an agitated murmur. They seemed more afraid now, and that gave me just a spark of hope. "Stay back!" I shouted, feeling the embers of courage ignite within me. I gripped the journal tighter, its weight now a strange comfort against my racing heart. The figures hesitated, casting wary glances at the glowing pages. One of them stepped forward slowly, as if trying to tame the energy in the room. "You don't understand the danger," it said, voice softer, almost pleading. "The journal contains knowledge that must not fall into the wrong hands." "Then help me understand," I shot back. "Why do you need it? Why me?" My words tumbled out, raw and desperate. Another figure, taller and more imposing, broke in. "You hold the key. The journal chose you." The tension crackled like static, sending chills down my spine. I felt both terrified and oddly reassured. But what did that even mean? From the shadows, something shifted. I turned as another figure, this one cloaked in deep blue, emerged. Its voice was rich and booming. "We are the protectors of balance. Forces are awakening, and without your help, chaos will reign." Chaos. My head spun with questions. This was unreal. I searched their faces, looking for signs of deceit, but there were only hoods and shadows. "How can I help?" I asked, my voice barely a whisper. The blue-cloaked figure gestured towards the journal. "Read it," it commanded. "Reveal its secrets, and you will see your purpose unfold." Before I could respond, the journal flipped open on its own, pages rustling with urgency as if beckoning me closer. A glowing symbol appeared, shimmering on the page. It resembled a circle intertwined with vines, pulsing rhythmically. Familiarity washed over me. It was the same symbol I had seen just days before in town, in that dusty old shop crowded with oddities. "What's that symbol?" I demanded, stepping closer, forgetting my fear for a moment. "That is the mark of the circle." The first figure returned, its voice steadier now. "It connects us. It binds the fate of this land, and you are the bridge." I shook my head, panic bubbling again. "I'm no bridge. I'm just a person trying to get away from all this." But as I looked down at the journal, something clicked. Memories surged, my grandmother's stories, the warnings about the woods, how they could trap you if you didn't follow their rules. This was all connected. Suddenly, there was a loud crash outside the cabin. The door splintered as two figures barreled through, dark shapes against the light. My heart sank. The newcomers wore no hoods, just fierce expressions, and they seemed bent on reaching me. "Get the journal!" one shouted. The room erupted into chaos. The cloaked figures shouted commands, and I felt the energy shift again. They were no longer here just for enlightenment. They were here to protect something, or perhaps to unleash it. In that moment, I realized I had to make a choice. Either stand and fight with the keepers of the circle or run. My mind raced. Then, everything went dark as the others charged in, and I felt an unseen force pulling me toward the glowing pages, unlocking an unknown path. When the darkness swallowed me, I felt the journal's energy surge, wrapping around me like a warm blanket. Then, a burst of light ignited, and I found myself standing in an entirely different place. The cabin faded, replaced by a vast landscape of wildflowers and looming mountains. The figures stood at a distance, their forms draped in the glow of the journal's light. Where are we?" I asked, bewildered. The gentle breeze played with my hair, yet I felt an ominous weight in my chest. "This is the realm of the circle," the blue-cloaked figure answered, stepping closer. "It exists between worlds, where time and reality bend. We brought you here to show you the truth." I blinked at the stunning vista beyond us. Vibrant hues cascaded through the flowers, trembling in the wind as if whispering secrets. But something inside me screamed that it was wrong. Why would you bring me here? I wanted answers, not more questions. What truth? Their expressions darkened. The tall figure sighed heavily. "The balance is unstable. Forces are breaking through to this realm, and you must understand the stakes." Before I could inquire further, the carefree scene shifted. Shadows loomed on the horizon, dark figures emerging from behind the mountains, their forms twisting unnaturally, as if they were half-formed. A chill ran down my spine. The protectors stirred anxiously. "Manifestations of chaos," one of the hooded figures muttered. "They seek the journal. We need to hurry." The ground trembled beneath us as the stillness gave way to an overwhelming rush of energy. I felt it tugging at me, urging me to pay attention. On instinct, I looked down at the journal, its pages vibrating furiously. "Concentrate," the blue figure instructed. "Focus on its words. The ancient language offers guidance." I hesitated, my hands trembling as I opened the journal again. The glowing symbol flickered on the page, and I began reading the lines, though the words felt strange, foreign, and yet familiar. Suddenly, memories flooded in, the past distorting into visions of my grandmother as she recounted tales of the circle and the dangers that awaited anyone unprepared. The chaos figures advanced faster, a swirling storm of shadows. "We don't have much time," whispered the first figure. "You must uncover the light within you to fight them." I felt my heart pounding as the memories coalesced into a single thought. I remembered the charm my grandmother gave me. With frantic clarity, I reached into my pocket, feeling the cool metal of the amulet against my skin. It pulsed in rhythm with the journal's glow. "That's it," the tall figure shouted, urgency rising in its voice. "Hold it close. It is a part of the bridge you are meant to become." The shadows grew larger, their intentions dark as they closed in around us. I was terrified, but something awakened within me. The amulet thrummed against my chest as I raised it toward the oncoming dark figures, the journal's energy igniting in response. Then everything exploded. Light surged from the journal, enveloping the surroundings, but just before it peaked, my surroundings flickered again. The vibrant landscape began to fade, leaving me gasping as I was pulled back into the cabin, breathless and surrounded by chaos. I opened my eyes to the splintered door and the cloaked figures fighting against the newcomers. Heart racing, I knew I had to act. This time, I wasn't just caught in the storm. I was part of it, Just as I prepared to step forward, the cabin filled with a bone-chilling scream, freezing me in place. I realized the chaos had only just begun. The scream echoed in my ears, piercing through the chaos like a knife. My gaze darted around the cabin, taking in the flickering shadows and the frantic movements of the cloaked figures. Fear clung to me like a shroud. Had I just returned to this place only to find it in turmoil? "Stay back!" one of the protectors shouted, raising a shimmering barrier that glinted in the dim light. The dark figures surged forward, their shapes flickering between solidity and shadow as they tore through the remnants of the door. I clenched the amulet tightly, feeling its cool surface grounding me amid the chaos. I wanted to run, to hide, but the urgency coursing through my veins screamed for me to fight. I hesitated for just a moment, torn between fear and resolve, when a blast of icy air slammed against me. The barrier around the protectors vibrated, struggling to hold against the approaching tide. "Use the journal!" shouted the blue figure, panic etched on their face. "It's the key!" The journal. I fumbled for it, pulling it from my pocket. The pages crackled with energy, responding to the threat looming over us. Glaring at the nearest shadow, I opened it to a random page. The strange, glowing script shimmered, filling the air with an ethereal light. "Words of power," I exclaimed, hoping it was true. "What do I say?" "Anything. Speak your truth," the blue figure urged. I took a deep breath, channeling all my fear into a single defiant sentence. "You will not take this place." My voice trembled, but I repeated it loud and clear. The journal flickered with intensity at my words, and I felt a surge of warmth spread through me. The shadows hesitated, confusion rippling through their forms. I felt the power of the journal flooding back to me, igniting something deep within. I could see visions of protective light through the pages. Somehow, I understood the essence I needed to project. "Begone!" I shouted again, this time as a command. The air around me shifted, swirling with energy that sparked through my fingertips. The dark figures faltered, shivering as if faced with a piercing light. The protectors rallied behind me, lending their strength to the energy radiating from the journal. Together, we formed an impenetrable wall of light that pushed back against the encroaching shadows. But then, an unexpected surge of energy sliced through our defense. A figure emerged from the chaos, looming taller than the rest, its twisted features barely comprehensible, yet somehow familiar. My heart sank as recognition hit me. This was a manifestation of the darkness I had encountered before. "Do you really think you can stand against me?" it hissed, the voices of countless souls woven into its cruel tone. "The journal will be mine once more." A cold shiver coursed down my spine. I had felt the darkness before, and now it was personified in front of me. "Why?" I shouted, desperation creeping into my voice. "What do you want with the journal?" "Control," it sneered. "Control over all realms, including yours." I glanced at the cloaked figures. They all looked just as frightened as I felt. I had to find a way to fight this, a way to break through its layer of fear. The agony I sensed within its twisted form unnerved me, but also gave me pause. Before I could formulate a plan, the darkness lunged toward me. I instinctively raised the amulet and journal to protect myself, and that's when the world erupted in blinding light, swallowing the cabin in a luminous wave. I felt myself pulled away again, a violent rush that left my head spinning. Then everything went dark. I woke up gasping, the dark weight of unconsciousness lifting like a heavy blanket. I blinked against the brightness, bewildered. The air was warmer, tinged with the scent of damp earth and wildflowers. My heart raced as I scrambled to sit up. I was no longer in the cabin. I found myself sprawled on a grassy hill, overlooking a sprawling valley. Trees swayed gently in the breeze, and a brilliant blue sky stretched above me. It was peaceful here, but the tranquility felt wrong, like a cruel joke in the aftermath of chaos. "Where am I?" I murmured, trying to steady my breath. The journal lay open beside me, the pages now shimmering in the sunlight. It pulsed with a faint glow, as if it held onto the energy from that moment of confrontation. "Hello?" I called, but my voice sounded frail and thin. No one responded. I pushed myself up on shaky legs, scanning the landscape. Shadows of mountains loomed in the distance, sharp against the horizon. A winding path cut through the valley, and at its edge, a small figure stood, shrouded in grey. My heart raced. "Is someone there?" I shouted, both cautious and curious. The figure turned, a child barely 10 years old with dark hair and bright eyes. They regarded me with an expression that seemed wise beyond their years. "They're coming," the child said, their voice eerily calm. "You must hurry." "Who is coming?" I asked, but my throat felt tight. The memories from the cabin flooded back. The dark figures, the towering shadow, and the light. "Not here. This place is safe for now," the child replied, gesturing to the valley. "But they'll find you if you stay too long. The journal binds you. It's both a blessing and a curse." My pulse quickened. "What do you mean? How do I get back?" The child stepped closer, their face unreadable yet serious. "Follow the path. It will take you to the crossing, but you must decide everything at the heart of the woods. You are not alone." They pointed toward the distant tree line. The urgency in their voice sliced through my confusion, pulling me into action. I didn't have time to question. I snatched the journal and amulet, tucking them close to my chest as I started down the winding path. The shadows from before crept back into my mind, haunting and menacing. Then I remembered the blue figure, the protector. "Wait," I called back to the child, but they only shook their head, stepping toward the light of the valley until I could see them no more. A sense of loneliness washed over me, but I pushed it aside. As I made my way along the path, the trees began to thicken around me. Their leaves rustled like whispers, and each step sent unsettling echoes through the silence. I paused, my instincts urging me to look back, but all I could see was the retreating light of the valley. Then a rustle came from the brush behind me. I spun around, breathless. A figure emerged from the shadows, clad in a dark cloak, familiar and terrifying. My heart sank as I recognized the voice claiming dominion over the cabin. It had followed me. "Did you really think you could escape so easily?" it hissed, stepping into view. The shadowy form twisted and warped, revealing that tortured visage I had sensed before. I backed away, my eyes darting for an escape. Then I remembered the journal. It pulsed again in my hands. I needed to use it, but how? Before I could think through my options, the figure lunged forward, shattering the calm. I braced myself, the weight of the amulet pressing against my chest. This was only the beginning. I stumbled back, heart racing. The shadow surged toward me, its shape flickering like a flame out of control. Instinct kicked in as I raised the journal, trembling hand spreading open its flickering pages. "Stay back," I shouted, voice faltering under the weight of my fear. The figure hesitated, momentarily halted as the glow from the journal intensified, a desperate energy radiating from its pages. I could feel the connection to the protectors, the circles. I was part of something larger, and it echoed within me. With a surge of determination, I spoke the words that clawed to the surface. "You will not take me." Light exploded from the journal, illuminating the woods in a blinding flash. The shadows around me shrieked as the brilliance forced them back, stretching and bending like smoke before a fierce wind. I felt a rush of power coursing through me, an unyielding light I never knew existed taking form in my heart. The figure writhed, its ghastly form convulsing, caught between the strands of shadow and light. It clawed at the air, a spectral scream that resonated in my bones. "You cannot escape your fate," it howled. But instead of fear, I felt a strange sense of clarity. "This is my fate," I declared, forcing the words out, "and I will choose it." I pictured the circle drawn in the journal, the warmth of its light connecting me to the protectors somewhere beyond this world. I closed my eyes and felt the amulet's cool metal against my palm, pulling the energy from within. The air crackled as I began to focus, channeling everything I learned from the protectors, all the whispers and warnings cascading into one thought. "You are nothing. You have no hold here." The light grew brighter, tilting the balance, sizzling as it clashed with the approaching darkness. I could sense the boundaries of the circle bending, warping into something new and raw. I focused harder, pushing my own fear, anger, and hope against the very essence of that dark figure, driving it away into the shadowed recesses of my mind. In an instant, there was a scream, sharp and piercing, before an overwhelming rush carried me off my feet. The shimmering light enveloped me, merging with the fabric of the forest, pulling me through layers of existence. Time blurred, color shifted, and within that tempest I sensed the encroaching emptiness of the shadow recede. I gasped, falling to the forest floor, the light fading to a soft glow around me. I was back. The trees loomed above, the branches swaying gently, whispering as if in greeting. I felt the weight of the journal and amulet pressing against me, still connected to the world I had almost left behind. I pushed myself up, breathing heavily. The forest felt calm again, the laughter of children distant echoes now, fading into the tranquil hum of nature. Had I truly faced my fears? Had I driven the darkness away for good? Clutching the journal, I took a moment to absorb the quiet around me, the soft rustle of leaves mingling with the distant chirps of birds. But this was no ordinary silence. There remained an unease, a sense that something had shifted. But was it truly over? I made my way back through the woods, the path twisting like a memory I couldn't fully reclaim. The air was rich with the scent of pine and earth, grounding me as I navigated through the underbrush. There was so much I didn't understand. Questions lingered like shadows. Why had the journal chosen me? What truly would happen if the figure returned? As I emerged onto the familiar gravel road, the sunlight warmed my back. My heart still raced, and a chill ran through me at the thought of returning home. I glanced back toward the woods, half expecting to see the figures waiting, once again occupying the edge of perception where the light meets the dark. In the end, I didn't have answers. The mysteries of the forest, the symbols, and what I had truly faced remained unresolved, hauntingly beautiful, yet terrifyingly real. I drove away, leaving the woods behind. Yet, deep inside me, the story was not entirely finished. The journal sat heavy in my bag, a promise of untold truths. I moved away, but the woods would always stay with me, whispering of choices, circles, and shadows yet untold. I might never know every secret, but I'd carry the light within, the spark of connection, holding tight to the hope that guided me forward.